Welcome to Talk It Out with Gilbert and Miller, where we talk about things that are important to the Black church as well as the African American community. Listen, I am flying solo on today. I'm like, oh no, where is Gilbert? Well, Gilbert is away, dedicating his time to vital youth programs in the community and doing some things in the area of correctional. His work is crucial in shaping the future for our youth and the different departments that he serves in. And so we just want to say from Talking Out Loud, Gilbert and Miller, we miss you. Can't wait to have you back next week. And he did say if he gets the opportunity, he will try to come into the studio. But hey, let's not count on it. He's going to be pretty busy. But I am so excited. Oh my goodness, we don't have to fear. We have a special guest with us on today. Yes, we do. We have Dr. Yes, Pastor. And we are so excited. Orlando J. Bego with us on today. He is fresh from the DNC in Chicago. He's going to just share all these major highlights with us, essential information, things that are concerning the Black church, the African American community. He's going to just really bring us up to date on things that's going around in our country on today in reference to different subject matters. So I am so excited. Let me just tell you a little bit about our guest. Dr. Bego received his formative education from Massanutten Military Academy. He continued his education at the University of the District of Columbia in business economics. He is a graduate of the Calvary Christian College, having earned a bachelor's degree in biblical studies with a concentration in pastoral leadership. He has a master's of divinity degree from the Samuel DeWitt Proctor School of Theology in Virginia Union University, and a doctorate in ministry and pastoral professionalism and spiritual care from Morehouse School of Religion at the Interdenominational Theological Center. His dissertation entitled Mental Health and the Black Baptist Church, the Impact of Faith on African American Male Churchgoers. His dissertation seeks to identify various therapeutic services offered in religious, if I can talk today, people, settings that serve as alternatives to affirmative therapy interventions. I'm just like, wow, amazing. He co-hosted the Rethink Possibility radio show, CBSN News Talk Radio. Oh my goodness, he has just done so very much. He is a contributor of the book entitled Copeology, Exploring Coping Techniques, several ebooks on mental wellness, and various other publications. Listen, he will also be sharing with us, and I can't wait to talk about it, his 2024 Election Lectionary. So I don't know about you. I am going to go ahead and bring him into the studio. Welcome, Dr. Bego. We are so elated to have you with us on today.
Well, good evening, Dr. Miller. It's always good to see a friendly, familiar face, and to Reverend Gilbert in his absence. I am excited to be here today on the Talk It Out podcast. Thanks for the invitation.
Oh, you are welcome. We're just so blessed and honored that you decided to come on here with us and just kind of fill in. And so I wouldn't be out here by myself on today, as well as you sharing your experience. Oh my goodness. From the DNC, just flat right off the boat from it, just still the hoopla, hello. Everybody's so excited. Listen, I'm going to start with what I wrote down so I won't mess this up because I don't want to go into my country version of what happened at the DNC. We're going to stick to the script.
All
Gilbert
right.
said to me, make sure you stick to the script. And so I'm sticking to the script on today. Can you kind of just walk us through your overall experience, what the atmosphere was like this year at the DNC in Chicago?
Wow. So I was able to spend the whole week in Chicago this year for the DNC 2024. And when I
Mm-hmm.
tell you from sun up to sundown, even into
Mm-hmm.
the rising of the next sun,
Oh my
the
goodness.
atmosphere was electrifying from
Wow.
beginning to end. So much hope, so much anticipation, so much expectation from a broad spectrum of
Mm-hmm.
community and interest coming together. I tell you that I cannot recall the last time that I have been in a political arena such as the DNC and
Mm-hmm.
see so much excitement on the
Mm-hmm.
faces of everybody that is present. Does not mean there were not at times some contention, and we can talk about that later on. But overall, the atmosphere was set. I think Lady Michelle Obama said it best when she said, "Hope is back."
Yes.
Right,
Yes.
hope is
Hope
back,
is back.
and I think that
Yes.
is so critical for us in this political climate when there is so much at stake,
Yes.
so much that is trying to dismantle the progress that we have made in this country, that we need something to hold on to.
Yes, I agree with you wholeheartedly. It was just so, just, I don't know, it was so wonderful when she said, Hope is back, and everyone started chanting, Hope is back. Hope is back. And it was just really, you could feel it. For those, when we're saying the DNC, you're saying what? Well, it is a Democratic National Committee. It was held there in Chicago, Illinois, and it was just electrifying. This is such a great moment in history. I mean, we're looking at our first, I'm saying it, I'm saying it, first African American woman, Asian uh, president. And so I am just feeling just like, oh my goodness, it's about to happen. I'm sure those that were on the precipice of this happening when Barack was running for office and he was there in the atmosphere, from all of that for our people. I can remember my dad, God rest his soul, he was sitting on the edge of the bed and he said to me, he said, I can't believe that we have in my lifetime an African American president. That was a proud moment for him. He died not even 3 days later, but it was a proud moment for him to see the tears. He and my mother, they just were weeping. My dad did a lot there. Working with the SELC there in Anniston, Alabama, and they really experienced the not being able to come through the front door and all of those things that our generation, we haven't had to quite endure a lot of those things to see them cry. And so I was sitting there, I got to just tell you, at this, and as it was going on, I had moments when I just cried because the hope truly was back in the air. It felt like it was possible.
Well,
It
two things I'll say. One is we have to recognize that there's a coin in top toss up. Hope is only one side of the coin. The other
Mm-hmm.
side of the coin is suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And so when people have
Yes.
been in places of despair and displacement and disdain, when there has been the lack of affordability in housing, and when there has been the
Mm-hmm.
disruption in supply chains, when the cost of goods have increased 20% at the grocery store because of price gouging and not inflation. You know, when the used car market costs as much as the new car market,
Yes.
people are suffering each and every day when our sons and our daughters are essentially being murdered at the hands
Mm.
of those who swore oaths to serve and protect. We have suffered a
Mhm.
lot as a people, and so we
Mhm.
stand at this shifting of expectation,
Mhm.
that here will come a new administration that would do
Yes.
things differently. Here's an administration that would do things that will protect us as equal citizens in these
Yes.
United States of America. I would be remiss if I did not draw the parallels
Mhm.
52 years later, from
Yes.
Shirley Chisholm to
Mhm.
Kamala Harris, right?
Yes.
Who
Yes.
52 years
Mhm.
ago uh, could not seat delegates. 52
Yes.
years ago was not recognized. 52 years
Yes.
ago had to file lawsuits because she was not
Mhm.
allowed to be on the
Yes.
debate stage and had
Mhm.
equal time and access to 52 years later. 50,
52
you know,
years.
we're spiritual people. 50,
Mhm.
5, the number of
Mhm.
grace, 10 being the number
Yes.
of wholeness, plus 2, right?
Yes.
52 years later, here we are
Here we
standing
are.
with hope
Hope.
that the
I
seed
agree with you.
planted then,
Mhm.
right,
Yes.
that we've watered for
Mhm.
the years, for
Wow.
52
Yes.
years has been watered,
Mhm. You
right?
know, wow. For a second there, I'm thinking about the pulpit. Go ahead now. Okay,
You
go
know,
ahead, Pastor
we've
Bacon.
been
Go
man doing
ahead.
for the night, but joy comes in the morning, right? But for 52 years, this seed has been planted, and the scripture
Mhm.
is clear. I know we're not supposed to, have this big
Go ahead.
theological discussion, but one sows,
Mhm.
another waters,
Yes.
and
Mhm.
then it's God that gives the increase.
The
And I just
increase.
believe,
Mhm.
if I put on my pastoral hat, that I believe a
Mhm.
shift is taking place in this nation, and
Yes.
it is not going to be a Sharpton, is not going to be a Jackson, is not
Mhm.
going to be the names that we are familiar with. I believe that in this season, that God is shifting because God wants to do
I
something
believe.
different, and the name that is being lifted up in this season is a Harris.
Yes. I mean, we have to really just look at how it even started. I mean, when we started off in the presidential election, we never saw this coming. We
Absolutely.
thought, oh my goodness, we're going to have to really fight. Oh Lord, we hope this will happen. And then it was like time stood still for a moment. And we were like, what? Did that just happen? It just took a second. And then once it did, we were like, oh my goodness, we're at that moment.
And
So
let's
it's
be
just
clear.
amazing.
Let's be clear that when President Biden suspended his campaign,
Mm-hmm.
he did not come out and endorse Kamala Harris.
Mm-hmm.
That came after in follow-up tweets,
Yes, it came in follow-up tweets, and
right?
I think I think sometimes when things are just obvious that they have to be done, I think the human part of all of us, I think for a moment, we say, "Wow, it's not going to be me,"
Hmm.
and I think he just really just needed a moment for it to digest and was like, okay, I better get on the train
Right,
because the train has left the station with or without me. So I better get on board. Yes.
right.
And he came back and he said, I was sitting there thinking, I don't care which way he did it. I'm so glad he did
He
it.
did it. He did it.
Yeah, I'm glad that he did it. And I thought, man, this is what America needs right now. It just it feels like we just need more leaders that can just pivot us into things that will make our country better. And I really feel with this move with her, some of the other people that are running in different areas, that these are things that we need to happen right now. And then I thought about when she selected Governor Tim Walz. What were your thoughts in reference to that? How impactful was that? You know,
So initially, I was taken back uh,
mhm,
because he was not one of my considerations at the time.
mhm,
But I understand strategy.
mhm,
And so I recognize that here's an individual who really did not have any political aspirations for the presidency.
mhm,
He was fine and serving his state as the governor. So
mhm.
so much so that when he received a call and was in discussions with them, and they told him that he was selected, one of the first things that he responded and said, somebody need to go get me one of them teleprompters because I've never read from one before.
Yeah, that
Right.
I mean,
So
yeah,
here's an individual who's so just straight down
mhm,
earth, right?
yes,
He doesn't wax eloquently with speech,
mm-mm, no,
right? He's not your typical polished politician.
mhm,
He makes it very simple and very plain for everyone to understand and get it. And that, I believe, was one of the most smartest strategic moves that her campaign could have made.
I 100% agree with you. You know, I'm from Alabama, so that whole coach thing, football is a very big thing. I mean, a lifestyle there in Alabama, and them calling him coach, I can relate to all hearing all of that. Being in the small neighborhood, growing up, and where everyone knows everyone, and taking care of neighbors. My parents were educators, and so it was just so reminiscent of that. And I'm sure that was heard across board, the boards by a
Yeah.
lot of people because
And what
they
and
could
what did he
identify with
say?
it.
What did he say in his speech? We're in the fourth quarter. We're
Yes.
down by 3, but we got the ball.
We got the ball. And so
We
it was like
we got the
it was encouraging. I was like, wow, I can identify with this. Brothers playing football, all that stuff, and him winning the state championship, all that. It was just like, wow, I can remember all those moments, there in Alabama with my brothers and them playing. And I said, man, this guy is so relatable. They
yeah.
nailed it with him. I felt once he spoke, and once the other people got up that knew him and talked, it was just so encouraging to see the guys come that had played for him, for
Mm-hmm.
them to come on the stage and talk. It was just wow. And his son, I don't care what they say, that was such a moving
Yes, it was.
moment for
Yes, it was.
me. I mean, you were there when he said, "This is my dad."
This is my dad. And even the story of he and his wife's reproductive journey,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, that touches home to
Yes,
so many women
so many.
who are on a fertility journey. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and when you have 50 years of legislation being overturned, and you
Mm-hmm.
don't know what that means to you
Mm-hmm.
and your family, he speaks about hope.
Hope. I can tell you, as a woman, where we had the first child and that was simple, but when we came back to say, oh, we want more. Listen, I endured 10 years of just trying to work it out, and I was so grateful that I had so many different options of what to do, and that I was able to say yes to this, no to that. And in the end, 4 beautiful children, but it was a road to get to that. And so I can't imagine for someone that wants children like I did, and then for them to say, yeah, you can probably have them, but this is what we're going to need to do. But for the new law to be that, but that's no longer an option for you. We could do that a year ago, but today we can't offer
You
you
can't
that.
offer that, right?
Yeah. And so I can't even imagine, thank the Lord, they're grown. The kids are grown, but it took a long while between the oldest and the other three. Is a 10-year difference. It took 10
Wow.
years. And so they said they think of her as their second mom because of the age difference.
The
But
age of what they call them back in the day, knee babies.
knee babies. And so she even now when she talks to them, you could tell that there's like a generational change between them because of the age. But I'm so grateful had those options. And so I cannot even imagine women not being able to do that. But guess what? For those that are listening in, and we're going to get back to the DNC and the excitement, um, it's a reality that that could happen if it goes the other way. I mean, we're very hopeful and happy and yeah, and you know the other party, as we were talking about off air, is trying to deny it, but 100%, you know, there are things in the works that could really make this go another way. Do you want to say a little bit about that
Yeah,
before we get
absolutely.
back to
I think
DNC?
reproductive rights are so pivotal in this moment. Listen, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know the last time many who are watching have been to the doctor's office.
Mm-hmm.
But they are building smaller doctor offices. They're
Mm-hmm.
so small that I don't believe that there's a place in the doctor office for the patient, for the doctor, and for government. I think
Mm-hmm.
women ought to have the right to choose what they do with their bodies,
Yes.
particularly if it is in the best interest of their health
Mm-hmm.
or their unborn fetus. That is a
Yes.
decision that they ought to be able to make with their doctor and with their God, and we
Really.
ought to be able to respect that right.
Yes, and it was to me, and we're gonna get off of it, but it was, kind of comical to me. And I said to my husband, I said, "Wow, the nerve of a man to try to tell me, a woman, what I need to do with my body." I said, "I'm not trying to tell the guys what to do for a guy because I'm not a guy. I'm not a man. I'm a woman."
Right,
And
right.
so I think we know what things are essential for us, just as a man, you know what things are essential for you, your health, and living and being happy and fulfilled and complete as a man. The same thing with us as women. Yes.
Right.
Okay, so we'll hop right on off of that. Let me get back because everybody's like, "Wait a minute, where's this big experience you promised from the DNC?" Because you're just going off into other kind of things. So tell us about the moments when certain speakers came out and who were really crowd favorites and how it was standing there, because it was people like arm to arm. You had some people that were all America done up, and you
Hmm.
had some people, that was just, there, and others that would cry. It was just a wide array of people.
Yeah, I don't think there was a single speaker
Mm-hmm.
uh, who did not move the crowd.
Wow.
Starting off with, Representative Maxine Waters.
Mm-hmm.
She delivers her speech, or, Representative Jasmine Crockett. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
loves Jasmine Crockett.
Mm-hmm. Everybody.
With her
Mm-hmm.
pointed one-liners
Mm-hmm.
or names, or even Senator Raphael Warnock,
Mm-hmm.
who talks about how our vote is our prayer
Yeah.
for what we want the world to be,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And language.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so I think each day, each night, each speaker uh, begins to broaden and shape perspectives,
Mm-hmm.
to help us realize that what we have is this common connection.
Mm-hmm.
We must come
Yes.
to the place of humanizing all people. That
Mm-hmm.
all people have value, all people have worth, and it does not mean that we have to agree on everything, but we must agree on that one thing, that we are all the children of God.
Oh
And if
God.
and if we agree on that, then we can move and shift the way that we need to. So that was important to me
Mm-hmm.
to hear that, and and to see that. Now, I can't really tell you,
Mm-hmm.
most people probably can't, what President Barack Obama said.
Mm-hmm.
He came out on stage and said only a fool will come up behind Michelle,
Michelle. I was thinking the same thing. Like, why did they put him before
right?
Michelle?
You know,
Mm-hmm.
but 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 that's a power couple that they've
Mm-hmm. They
learned
are.
to play off each other,
Mm-hmm.
and so,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't think there was anything. I will tell you, one of the things that I enjoyed the most
Mm-hmm.
was the seating of the delegates,
Yeah.
uh,
Okay.
and particularly for the state of Georgia, uh,
Mm-hmm.
who brought Little John out
Oh.
to perform.
Mm-hmm. Little John.
uh,
Yes.
when it was time for them to seat
Mm-hmm.
their delegates. But there is so much, and you can go to my Instagram page, Dr. Bego
Mm-hmm.
Transform, where I take highlights from all of various speakers, particularly African American speakers. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I take highlights from their speech, and I cut them down into
Wow.
reels. And so you can go to my Instagram page, and you can see some of the things that they said that I think was very impactful during their speeches.
Wow. Wow. Can you give them that information again? Because I'm sure many of those that are watching and that are listening will want to go over and, be able to experience those clips.
Absolutely. You can go to IG at Dr. Bego, Bego, Dr. Bego Transformed. That's Dr.
Sure.
Bego Transform, and there you'll see different highlights of various speeches during the DNC.
Wow. I was just like, wow, when Gilbert said you were coming on, you were going to talk about it, that you had, been there. I said, man, this is going to be amazing. There's so many questions that I have. I'm looking through them, trying to make sure that I cover everything. Now, when we get back to the relevance of things that are going on in reference to the Black church and the African American community, because that's one of our focuses here on the show. Were there any types of issues or comments or things that you could hear in the atmosphere, or people were saying or sharing, um, that was in reference to the African American community, things that we could just kind of grab a hold of?
Yeah, so it's interesting because so often um, issues that impact the African American community are wrapped up in everyone else's issue.
Mm-hmm.
And so when legislation comes out, it's because it has an impact on
Mm-hmm.
Black communities, that somehow it's a part of the Black agenda. And that doesn't necessarily, ring true.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the Black church needs to needs to broaden how it views
Mm-hmm.
policies that impact the church and Black communities. Let me give you an example. The Black church does not play a vital role as it relates to as it relates to environmental justice.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When we think about environmental justice, by and large, we think of the trees, and
Mm-hmm.
the ozone layer, and
Mm-hmm.
saving the whales. Right? When we think of
Yes.
environmental justice,
Mm-hmm.
those are the things that come to mind. But when we understand environmental justice from Black community perspective, we're talking about poisonous water in Flint, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When we talk about
Yeah.
environmental justice from a Black community perspective, we're talking about the increase of asthma in our children.
Yes.
When we talk about environmental justice, we're talking about respiratory ailments. We're talking about skin conditions like eczema that are raging our population. And so I think the Black church, Black community, Black electorate, Black leaders um, have to broaden the conversation, that that these are not just policies that impact white communities, but look at
Yes.
them to understand how they impact Black communities. I went to a discussion as related to interfaith dialogue.
Yes.
And in this particular study, what the study found is that the United States of America is becoming less of a religious nation. That is among all groups of people:
Oh, oops.
Black, white,
Mm-hmm.
Republicans,
Mm-hmm.
Democrats, male, female. That
Yes.
we are becoming less, not just Christians, but less as a religious nation. And so that pendulum is shifting away from the recognition of a divine purpose
Yes.
in God,
You
right?
yes.
How does the church make that adjustment? How
Well,
does the Black church in our community? That's the question that they
mm-hmm.
have to ask and
Wow.
answer, is how do
Mm-hmm.
they make the shift and the adjustment to remain relevant and impactful in the community to the people that they say they have been called to serve?
Yes. One of the things, with you being a pastor, me being a pastor as well, is that a lot of the churches, when we came back from, COVID and those things, all of a sudden, we weren't packed wall to wall,
Mm-hmm.
floor to ceiling. And the ones that were everyone had gotten used to, hey, I can tune in and see Pastor Bego at 8. I can tune in and see, Pastor Gibson at 3. I can go over and see Gilbert and them at 11 or whatever time I want to do. And so it became that I don't have one pastor, I don't have one church. I have a variety
Yeah,
of churches available, like a smorgasbord, as well as um, the teaching differences. Some learned that, hey, even though I've been going to my church for 20 years, I like a pastor that teaches the word versus one that comes and just gives me a word for the week. And so different things change. I believe families were able to make decisions together regarding religion and faith and how they wanted to serve together. And so because of that, it started to shift our perception of what is church as usual, because there's no longer church as usual. And I think our failure to really, because I've been at events, Pastor, and I'm sure you have too, where you've heard other pastors talking, Dr. Bego, and they're talking as if this shift never occurred. And I'm thinking, no, it occurred.
Yeah, I think two things. One, I think what COVID-19 did was put a
Mm-hmm.
10-year exponential on
Yes.
on uh, what was the inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, studies had already said by 2030, 2035 that there was going to be a shifting away from in-person worship to a more digital presence
Yes.
online.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so I agree with you.
COVID-19 just sped that up, right?
It sped it up.
It sped up. And then what happened was 3 years post-COVID, rather than recognizing and reshaping and retooling ministry for the shift,
Yes.
there were some congregations who wanted to return back to the state of being a relic.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And it's just not possible. It's just
Right?
not possible
They
to
they
do
they
that.
saw it as they saw it more as an inconvenience,
Mm-hmm.
right, than a transformation.
Yes.
So
And
once the COVID-19 was over, then they wanted to go back to the way that things were, and that just brings up a whole
yes.
lot of other stuff because it's not
Mm-hmm.
what it used to be.
It's not.
And if you haven't positioned yourself not just for the change digitally,
Mm-hmm.
if you haven't positioned yourself as a congregation to deal with the mental health implications of COVID-19,
Yes. Oh my
right?
goodness.
Some people are not coming back to church because they dead. They
Yeah,
didn't.
because they're dead.
They just dead.
They're dead.
Some people aren't coming back because they just gonna watch church online.
Mhm.
But there are other people who did not come back because they know that it's different.
It's different. Hmm.
They know that the familiar faces that were once there are no longer there,
Yeah.
right? And so ministry has this opportunity to be different in the shifting that is taking place.
Yes, I got to tell you, just I don't know how many people were aware, but during that COVID time, as it was coming down some in 2020, my grandmother, who was 98, my mother went to take care of her. She had COVID. And my grandmother died, and 2 weeks later, my mother died. And so,
Oh, so sorry.
virtually, basically, the clothes that my mother purchased to wear to her mother's funeral turned into the clothes that my mother was buried in. My mother had just retired as the oldest principal in the history of the elementary school system there. She hadn't even been retired a year, pastor's wife. My dad, he's deceased, but, and she was a mother of the church. And it was really hard for a lot of people coming back. They said, what am I going to do? I'm going to get back. And Miss Meriwether's not there. It's just, she's been like a staple in three generations of me and my children. She was a teacher, and then she was a principal, and then she was their Sunday school teacher. She was the pastor's wife, and she's gone. So that was a very hurtful thing. And then I got to be like real honest and transparent. I'm a pastor. I had a moment like, wait a minute, my God, my grandmother served you, Jesus. My goodness, her whole life. Um, and then my mother and father whole life, and this is how it ended. That moment was really
Yeah.
real for me, and it took a second. I was like, hey, should I really be focused on some other things, including this? Am I putting everything into this, and I should focus, you know um, so I can't imagine for those that experience that loss. It was a deep loss for me, but others that experience that loss, and it's like my life isn't the same, church isn't the same, and you want me to come back and act like it's all good, but hey, I'm hurting. I need to cry. I need to say I'm upset. I need to. Do I need some medication? Do I need a counselor to talk to? People were in that state of mind. I praise the Lord. I'm not one of those people that I got myself a counselor. I was like, hey, this was a lot because my mother died there with me there taking care of it. So I said, hey, I need somebody to talk to me. I need some mental health
Absolutely.
care right now. And I did. And then my whole family was like, what you need that for? Well, because I feel like I'm cracking up, people. I just lost my mother and my grandmother. Yeah.
Yeah, so my father passed away in 2020
Oh,
due to COVID-19. Um,
wow.
I tell you, the last
And
two
I
times.
met him. He was a wonderful person. Very
Thank you.
wonderful.
Last two times I saw my father. The first time is when I put him in an ambulance to take him
Mm,
to the hospital. And the second time, which was the last time I saw him, was because a nurse was gracious enough to take her iPad into the ICU and set it up in front of him
mm,
while he was laying in the bed.
yeah.
And so when we talk about shifting that takes place and technology and
Hmm.
things, of that nature, one of the things that I did from that is I purchased a couple dozen laptops,
Hmm.
sent them to a local nursing home uh,
Hmm.
to ensure that even in this digital climate, uh,
Yes.
that there were loved ones who will be able to see their loved ones because they
Yes.
could not visit them in person. But this is so important and so critical because we need to tie it back
Hmm.
to how we vote,
How we vote.
how we vote, and how,
Hmm.
and if we choose not to vote, the impact of our vote. Our vote is our voice,
Yes.
And we can't run the risk of staying on the sidelines and watch everybody else in the game and then
Yes.
try to play Monday morning quarterback.
Yes.
We have to get into the game. It is so
Yes.
critical because the reason why Donald Trump uh, became president is because not that he won the popular vote,
Yes.
but because he won the electoral college. And so
Hmm.
it is important. And because as president, there were some things that he did and did not do that were
Yes.
impactful to the African American community. And so it is important that we don't just stick out and with this degree of apathy to say
Hmm.
ain't nothing going to change anyway.
Hmm.
Yes, things will change, but it starts with you showing up to vote, and then secondly, holding your elected officials accountable through the duration of their term. This is what we call participatory democracy.
Yes.
You
Participatory.
have to engage at every level. You need to be voting on who your dog catcher is in
Yes.
your neighborhood. You need to
Hmm.
be showing up to your ANC commissioner meetings or your
Yes.
uh, all of your local official meetings. Why? Because all politics is local.
Hmm. I
We
agree.
can get so focused on who's going to be president, but the president ain't deciding what day your trash get picked up.
No.
President isn't deciding how your school system is getting funded.
Correct.
So when you go to the ballot box, you're
Hmm.
not just voting on the presidential election. You're voting on the down ballot,
Hmm.
which means you have to be not only engaged, but you got to also be informed.
Yes.
Don't
And
just
a
show
lot.
up and just, you know,
Hmm.
circling any name because you playing
Yes.
ABC 1, 2, 3 or any, meeny, miny, mo.
Yes. He's like, I never heard of this person.
Never
Yeah.
heard of this person.
Yeah.
You have to be informed.
Informed.
I believe that it is our civic duty as Christians to be engaged and informed in the political process.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And then what we need to understand by us being engaged, when there is something that arises in our community, we can leverage that and say, hey, we show up for things that need to be voted on, not just at the federal level or the national level, but right here in our community. We show up for the Board of Education meetings. We show up when you're having something that talks about, as you were saying, the trash in our community and those who are going to be over this and that. Everywhere we're concerned, we're involved. We can leverage that and say, hey, we had 7,000 people that showed up for that meeting. Okay. And in that meeting, you promised us that you were going to so and so, so and so, and that never occurred. Where are we with this?
Yeah, so people understand better than we do
Mm-hmm.
what power we possess.
Yes.
There is a reason for voter suppression.
Yes.
There is a reason for voter expungement, right? There's a reason for gerrymandering.
Mm-hmm.
The reason is because they understand that people of color are a voting bloc and there
Yes.
is power in your vote.
In your vote.
They
Mhm.
understand the vision.
Yes, they do.
Right? They recognize that if I can divide the vote, then it
Mhm.
loses its power.
Yes.
And so it's important that we recognize the power that we possess. Let me give you an example.
Hmm.
The Divine Nine is made up of approximately 1.5 million individuals. 1.5.
Yes.
But when you factor in their family dynamics, that 1.5 goes to 10 million.
Wow. Hmm.
Do you recognize the power so that when you show up to the White House, you have an agenda?
An agenda.
Because you represent 10 million people collective.
Yes.
You
That's a
understand what
lot.
I'm saying?
Yeah,
And
I
and
do.
and so we can break that whole thing down, not just on the federal level, but what is your voting block as it relates to
Yes.
your local community? What is your voting block as it relates to your denomination?
Yes.
Where does your denomination stand on certain policies, and how does it begin to galvanize the people in its collective to ensure that this policy moves forward? That's
So
what's important. You got to make them do something. They ain't gonna do it
yes.
just because you show up.
No. No, I agree with you wholeheartedly. My question then becomes, because a lot of what we talk about on the show is about the Black church and the African American community. So the church, let's start right there. I think in our role as the Black church, as the Black pastor, as those that attend service, we need to do more advocacy. It needs to be stronger. You stated that, but I listening to you talk, I'm like at level 3, I think, with the things, but you're sounding like you're at level 7 with it. And I'm going, man, I missed that part right there. We need to do so much more. And what are your views on that in the Black church and where we are right now and how we are? I don't think we're being as saying as much as we need to be saying right now.
I think part of it is we don't know what to say.
Okay.
If my grandmama was here, she would say, "You're so heavenly bound that you know earthly good." Right?
That's profound.
We've had our eye fixated on Jesus for so long.
Hallelujah.
Right? That ain't blasphemous. Right? But we've been so focused on heaven that we've lost sight of earth.
I agree with you.
And so what is happening is this breaking away from the Black church to outside organizations who are led by religious leaders.
Yes.
Could not find a voice inside of the church. And so the church no longer serves as the cornerstone in community, in politics, in social issues. It's these outside organizations that have come up with plans and agendas to move the needle. And so the church has to begin to realign itself back with the political affairs that are impacting communities of color. Some of my conversation over the last couple of months with key leaders have been, well, we don't know what to say. We don't know what to preach on Sunday. And part of it deals with the fact that, you have all of these IRS regulations in terms of, what religious organizations can and cannot say in the pulpit. And so one of the things that I've done is I've created the 2024 Election Lectionary.
That led right into that. That's good. I was saying that next.
The prophetic voice, the pivotal vote. And so what this lectionary guide does is it provides several resources within it. One, it provides Sunday morning sermon titles, scriptures, sermon summaries, hymns, prayers to help guide us through this process of how to preach about voter engagement, voter empowerment, and voter turnout. I tell my people every Sunday, listen, the last couple of weeks has not been a preach you feel good sermon.
Yes.
That is not what God has called us to in this season. Yes. God has called me in this season to preach so that you are informed, right?
Yes.
And So for some, they love it. Some people they don't, but you have to do what is mandated at the time. And so that's one resource in it. Another one deals with do's and don'ts. What you
Mhm.
as clergy can and cannot say from the pulpit. You cannot endorse as an organization a candidate, but you
Yes.
can lift up policies that are impacting your community.
Yes.
In the guide, we have the list of all the state board of elections for the United States of
Mhm.
America, including the U.S. territories, so that you
Yes.
could be able to go and ensure that you have not been purged from the rolls, right?
Yes.
In Georgia, in the state of Georgia, since 2019, over 300,000 persons
Mhm.
have been purged from the roll. Georgia
No.
just passed new legislation that does what? That allows your neighbor to
Mhm.
challenge
Mhm.
whether or not you are eligible.
Mm.
Can I give you this? Can I give you the statistics?
Yes.
One person, one person in the state of Georgia has challenged 34,000 registered voters.
Wow.
I don't know four other neighbors on my street.
Hello, 34. Wow, my
How you
goodness.
challenge 34,000 of your neighbors?
Wow. That's amazing. How
One
crazy is that?
person, one
Wow.
single person has
Wow.
challenged 34,000 registered Democratic African American people of color, brown skinned people.
Mm. Wow. But they figured out, as you said, they figured out that maybe one person, but this is something that I can legally do. And so, guess what? Every chance I get to do it, I am going to challenge someone. They figured that part out.
Do you know that in some states, if you go to the Board of Education and pick up a voter registration, there
Mhm.
is a timeline attached to that
Yes,
for you to return it.
for you to return it.
If you don't return it and you get caught with it past the deadline, do you know that you can be fined and subject to arrest?
You said arrested? Said, wait a
Arrested?
minute.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. If you do
Wow.
not return your voter registration card in a certain amount of
Hmm.
time, let's say you go and say, I want to register to vote, and they give it to you, and you hold on to it past the deadline, you can be
Wow.
fined and subject to arrest.
I learned something new today. That's mind blowing to me.
And so
Wow.
these are the oppressive systems that are in place.
Hmm.
And
That are in
again, it
place.
goes back to what? They understand our
Yeah.
power. We have to
Hmm.
understand our power. The church has to understand its power in positioning our people.
Wow.
So that's what this
So,
guide does.
mhm.
It provides that reason, and it is a free resource,
Okay.
right?
How can they get this?
You can go to drbego transform.com, or you can go to my IG at Dr. Bego
Hmm.
Transform and hit the link tree link. Once you hit that, it'll
Hmm.
take you right to the guide, and you would download it in a PDF format. If you want
Hmm.
to print it, you can print it, but I encourage you to download it and share with your pastor, share with your colleagues, and just use it as needed. It is so critical
Hmm.
and pivotal in this time, right?
Yes,
That
it
that
is.
scripture is clear. My people perish because of what? Lack of knowledge and the
Mm-hmm.
rejection
The,
thereof.
reje- the rejection thereof.
So
Yes.
I want to give it to you, but I don't want to
Mhm.
give it to you and you just sit on it. I
Yes.
want to give it to you so that you can share with other people. And so it is free. All you have to do is go get it and use it.
Wow. Well, we are preparing to get ready to close out here. We have about 5 minutes left here. Are there any areas that we didn't cover or something that you really wanted to say or talk about about before we close on today, Dr. Bego?
Wow. So as they say, time waits for no one, right? And so we are
Yes.
approaching the hour that is at hand. We did not spend a lot of time going in depth about
Mm-hmm.
Project 2025. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I hope you deal with that in some later,
Yes.
episode. This conservative agenda to reshape governance in the United
Mm-hmm.
States and the many ways that it is impacting communities of color, whether it's through economic policies or environmental policies or
Mm-hmm.
justice and police reform policies. It is so important that we understand. Listen, I have
Yes.
never played basketball, football, or any sport where the opposing team shows you their playbook.
Yes. I
And this
mean,
is exactly what they
yes.
showed you the playbook.
Mm-hmm. And so you don't have to guess where the
I have to
guard or
guess.
the forward will be. None of that. They say he will be right here.
They
Is
say,
right
this
there.
is what we gonna do. What you
Yes.
gonna do about it?
What you gonna do about it?
And
Yeah, that's that's the hard part.
I
Yeah.
want to challenge you to get in the game.
Get in the game.
Get in this
Wow.
game.
Get in the game. I hope that our listeners are listening, on today, and that they will. I know we all hear on the news and that, oh, this is serious. We need to get moving. We need to make this happen. But on today, you got more of an explanation. I'm sure in some areas, for some that are listening in, that you weren't as clear, not meaning you, that we didn't have that understanding of every single thing. And so I thank you so much for just really giving a lot of insight uh, about the DNC, but also in reference to this time, the climate of what's going on, our need to understand policy, our need to get involved, for us to understand the power that we possess, those types of things. I think there are things that need to be really pushed to more. From the top down, we need to hear that at the Black church. We need to hear that from our African American leaders, not just from the top level, but at every level. And we need to understand. I have to say this before I close. I was saving this for you. Something that I did with when I went back and I looked. When Trump took office, what he did was he had a lot of things that kept us kind of focused on that, and he was stacking the chords. I mean, he was
Absolutely.
stacking them on at every level, from the city to the county to this. It's mind blowing when you just take a moment and you go back and review. And I'm thinking to myself, as a conscious person that calls myself really involved with life and what goes on around me, he strategically put a whole bunch of people into place that, listen to me, folks, it'll take a while to
Yeah,
some
and the
generations to go through.
and the next president will presumptively be able to seat two more Supreme Court justices
Yes.
because of
Yes.
retirements. Right. So this is critical. It's the Supreme Court justices, it's your
Mm-hmm.
federal judges, it's your federal appeal court judges.
Mm-hmm.
All of that impacts Black and brown communities.
Yes.
Right. And
Yes.
we need to see and understand how that plays out, not just for us. That's what I want to
Mm-hmm.
say. This vote isn't just for me and it ain't just for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you care anything about your children, if you care anything about your grandchildren,
Mm-hmm.
then you recognize that your vote is not just for you, but it's also for them.
It's for them. I think that's the most powerful thing that has been been said, I guess, on tonight is that it's not just for you, me and my three. It's for our children's children after us, my neighbor, my community, my country. Yeah, it's important that you're not doing it just for yourself. My thing in life, I guess, that I live by, my mantra is that, and it's a song, if I can help somebody as I travel along, then my living, I don't want my living to be in vain. Okay, I'm getting a little country over to the really, really Jesus side of my life. But one day I really want to see him, and him to tell me, "Well done," and saying, "Girl, even when you didn't have to, you did anyway. You did this and you did that to help, even if." The other person never says thank you, whatever. I'm just like, yeah, I'm getting caught up, getting sentimental. That's what Gilbert's talking about by getting off point. And so it's so important that we remember to help each other, that it's not about us. So what's three last things that you'd like to say right quick? And then I'm going to close us out.
Three last things I want to say on this topic is get engaged, get informed, and be involved.
Wow. Once again, we thank you, Dr. Bego, for being on with us on tonight. I know this won't be the last time that we'll have you on, because we have so many things that are going on during this season. And I'm one that loves to give accurate and correct information and how people can connect. One last time, tell them how to get the information for the 2024,
All right, two ways you can get it. Go
Election
to
Lectionary.
Yes, right. You can go to the website at Dr. Bego, Bego, Dr. Bego Transformed.com, or you can follow me on all things social at Dr. Bego Transformed.
I had someone to ask me that question. So until next time, we just thank you for tuning in and being a part of our listening family. On next week, it should be Gilbert and I back together, but we thank you so much, Dr. Bego, for coming and helping us and sharing your experience along with all of your expertise with us on the show today.
Thank you so much
Until
for having
next
me.
time, we want to encourage all of our listeners to be blessed. You're welcome. Good night, everyone.